Hello and welcome to Phuket PALS. Today we're going to go through another GED social studies exam, question by question, so you can have some experience when you sit the exam and be confident. As always, I'll give you opportunities to pause the video so you can read text, look at charts, graphs, or maps yourself, and try to guess the correct answers before we discover them. Number 1. What type of government has a king or queen with powers limited by written or unwritten rules and a legislature that it enacts the laws? This is a factual knowledge-based question. If you've studied the types of government, then you should be able to tell this right away from key terms. So A, a constitutional monarchy, B, a constitutional democracy, C, a democratic republic, or D, a federal republic. The correct answer is A, a constitutional monarchy. Key terms being king or queen, which is a monarch. And we know it's constitutional because of written rules. Number 2. Go ahead and pause the video, read through the question, read through the answers, and determine which one you think is correct. Okay, I think everyone's had enough time to try and choose the correct answer. Let's go through it. A common type of oligarchy is a junta, a government led by a committee of military leaders. Which of the following is characteristic of an oligarchy? A. Power is effectively exercised by all citizens. That is not an oligarchy, that's democracy. B. One ruler holds supreme power. Incorrect, that would be autocracy. C. A small group of people control the state. This is correct. That's the definition of an oligarchy. D. A god or a deity is recognized as ruler. That would just be a primitive form of government. Number 3 is a different type of question. Here we have a fill in the blank. You must be able to understand the term needed and recall it from memory. This again is a factual based knowledge type of question about US government. Make sure you study the civics section carefully. So it says, under the principle of blank, the U.S. government is divided into 3 different branches, each with its own duties. What do you think it is? Separation of powers. Again, there's no way to know this except to have memorized it. Most of the test is not about memorization, but there are some things that you must memorize. Question number 4 is a different type of question. We've got a drag and drop. This is factual-based knowledge as well, and you must be able to choose the correct term. However, you don't have to recall it. It's there in the menu for you. Question 4 states that rights that are independent of laws or of government and therefore cannot be taken away by a government act are... Go ahead and pause the video. Read the possible answers and choose the one you think is correct. So the correct answer is natural rights. Okay, so here we have a piece of visual media, a graph showing us both economic scale of beliefs from left, being the most socialist, where the power of production and control of money would be controlled by the state for the greatest equality of all the citizens. Then on the farthest right, we would have laissez-faire, free market economy, where the state controls the economy to zero extent, ideally for them. On the top, we would have authoritarian, which is a state-controlled social order. Going down the social scale to the bottom, we would have libertarian, which focuses on individual liberties, meaning that not accepting of excessive laws controlling our lives. We have different political figures scattered around the chart. On the top leftmost corner, we would have the most socialist authoritarian leader, Pol Pot, the man responsible for the horrible genocide in Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge. On the far bottom right, we would have Ayn Rand, author and political philosopher, who despises both social and fiscal control. And then we've got people spread throughout all over the different range of political options. Let's look at question number 5. It just asks us, what does this graph show? Read through the answers and choose which one you think is correct. Again, I think you've paused and had a chance to look through it. Let's go through the answers one by one. A says, a comparison of economic and social beliefs of various public figures. B, an overview of various kinds of governmental systems. There aren't any governmental systems mentioned in this. We have ideals, and that's it. So B cannot be correct. C, a detailed look at diverse economic systems. Again, there is no detailed look at anything. D, an explanation of the difference between leftist and rightist politics. They tell us left and the right, but they don't list any of the politics or details about it. So A is the correct answer. And now we have people from the graph selected, and it asks us, according to the graph, which of the following would be best described as a conservative libertarian? Have a good look at these people and try to remember their names. We're going to go back to the chart and give you a chance to look. So we have A, George W. Bush, B, Robert Mugabe, C, Adam Smith, and D, Ayn Rand. So we're looking for conservative libertarian. So if we go to the conservative scale on the right, and then we go down to the libertarian scale, the most right bottom person on the list is Ayn Rand. Go back to the question. D, Ayn Rand would be the correct answer for the conservative libertarian. According to the graph, which of the following is most likely to have social political views? So, which of these political figures, Karl Popper, Thomas Hobbes, Mohandas Gandhi, or Robert Mugabe? Again, we're going to go back to the graph and look to try to remember the names. We're looking for socialist political views. Of those figures, if we go looking all the way to the left, none of the names at the top, the leftmost side of the chart, Pol Pot, Joseph Stalin, or Mao Zedong, are in the list. And at the bottom end, Mohandas Gandhi is. While Karl Popper would be fairly socialist, Mohandas Gandhi was the most. So we're going to choose C, because Gandhi is on the leftmost side of the graph. Here we have a flow chart. Take a peek, pause the video, and read all of the text. Question 8 asks us, what does the chart represent? Again, pause the video and read the definitions to see if, read the answers to see if you can choose the correct one. So, I hope you've had enough time to choose. A is the functioning of democracy in a typical parliamentary republic. B, the process by which an act of the U.S. Congress becomes a law. C, the power of the U.S. President to appoint members of the government. D, checks and balances of power between branches of the U.S. government. Let's go through the answers and select which one we think is correct. So it doesn't tell us many details about the functioning of a democracy in a parliamentary republic because it's not that system. The process by which an act of the U.S. Congress becomes a law. It doesn't outline that, though laws may be discussed. And the power of the U.S. President to appoint members of the government does not seem correct either. D is correct because it shows us the different branches and how they interact with each other. The arrows indicating how each branch, can check the powers of the other. Keeping a balance, noticing there are arrows in both directions. This should be something you're very familiar with. This kind of question you should be able to cruise through if you have studied the U.S. government and civics section well. Question 9 is another factual knowledge-based question. You simply have to remember this. Which branch of the U.S. government has the power to impeach the president? It's the legislative branch. The executive branch is the president. It cannot be correct. And C, the judicial branch simply does not have that power. 10. Go ahead and pause, read the question, and all 4 answer choices. So this is asking us to use our analytical skills. 10 states that U.S. presidents may retain influence over the Supreme Court long after they have left office. Which of the following explains this concept? So how can they maintain influence over the Supreme Court long after they've served their maximum 8 years as president? A. Presidents appoint Supreme Court justices who serve lifetime terms. This is certainly an example of control after their term. B. Former presidents advise their successors on choosing the Supreme Court justices. While this could be true, this is not provable. We don't know who speaks to whom and about what. It's not written into the Constitution. C. Former presidents have the power to impeach Supreme Court judges. Former presidents do not have that power. Incorrect. D. Supreme Court justices consult former presidents before ruling on cases. While this could be true, this would be highly unethical, and it is not written into the Constitution. A is the correct answer. Okay, here we have a diagram of the steps for the proposal and ratification of amendments to the Constitution. Go ahead and read all the text, looking carefully at the titles, subtitles, and data within each of the graphics. Pause the video, and then we'll discuss. Okay, go ahead and read the question and read the answers, and let's go back and look at the chart to see if we can decide which one is true. So this question, number 11, asks us, what is the first step in amending the U.S. Constitution? Answer A is, the President sends a proposed amendment to Congress. B, an amendment is ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures. C, an amendment is proposed by Congress or by a constitutional convention. D, state legislatures send a proposed amendment to the President. So which one is the first step in amending the Constitution? Can you remember? Have a look. So if we look at number 1 and 2, a constitutional amendment can be proposed in one of 2 ways: by 2/3 of the members of both the House and Senate, or at a convention called by 2/3 of the state. The correct answer is C, an amendment proposed by Congress or by a constitutional convention. 12. An amendment can be ratified if it is approved by which one of these? Read the answers. Pause the video. You can have a look at this again and pause the video. Then we'll go back. A, 3/4 of the House of Representatives. B, 3/4 of the Senate. C, 2/3 of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Or D, 3/4 of the state legislatures. And the answer is D, 3/4 of the state legislatures. If we look back here, it clearly says 3/4 on the left, number 1. Question number 13. An amendment can be proposed if it is approved by, so this is about proposal. Give you a chance to read the questions and the answers. We'll go back and look at the chart again so you can see the proposal process. Look clearly for the numbers. Just by looking at the numbers, we should be able to guess. They use numbers, numerals on the graphic, but here they write the numbers. Still, they are the same. So we have A, 3/4 of the Senate. There was no 3/4 in the proposal process. B, 2/3 of the House of Representatives. C, 2/3 of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. D, 3/4 of the state legislatures. The answer is C, 2/3 of both the House and Representatives and the Senate. Though B is true, it is incomplete, and A and D have the wrong fractions to be correct. So the next question is going to be about the Bill of Rights. Here we have a drag and drop. You're going to choose rights to put into those square rectangles. Those rectangles. So the question says, match each description below the Bill of Rights to its correct amendment. The top one is freedom of speech, religion, press, petition, and assembly. The middle is the right to bear arms and militia. And the bottom is the right to a trial by jury. Try to remember those. I'm going to go back to this. You can pause the video and choose which ones. So, number one, this is very challenging. The first one would be freedom of speech, religion, press, petition, and assembly. That would go in the top rectangle under the First Amendment. Amendment 2 is the right to bear arms and militia. That's in the center here. And then the bottom rectangle would be filled with a right to a trial by jury, or the Seventh Amendment. Which amendment of the Bill of Rights protects a person from being arrested for writing an article that is highly critical of the president? This question requires factual-based knowledge. We need to know which rights are guaranteed by which amendments in the Bill of Rights. But it also requires us to apply that knowledge. Here they've given us an example of an application of our rights. That is, writing an article that is critical of a president. Which amendment protects that right, and what is the right? Pause the video, give it some thought, and choose. The answer is A, Amendment 1. The First Amendment gives us freedom of speech. And this would be both freedom of speech and freedom of the press, the right to say what you want, and an article will be published in the newspaper or magazine. 16. Which amendment of the Bill of Rights guarantees that you cannot be imprisoned without charges for a lengthy period? A, the Second Amendment, B, the Fifth Amendment, C, the Sixth Amendment, or D, the Eighth Amendment? Can you remember the Bill of Rights well enough to pick the right answer? The right answer is C, the Sixth Amendment. 17, we have another fill-in-the-blank question. It says, the blank is the presiding officer of the U.S. House of Representatives and is elected by the majority party. This is factual-based knowledge, and we must recall this term. Who is the member of the president's cabinet who would be responsible for this? The answer is the Speaker of the House. And I have to apologize, it's not a member of cabinet. 18. This is one of those questions we want to be careful of. They like to use except, not, or other terms in bold to make us think about the question more carefully. 18 asks, which of the following is not a responsibility of state legislatures? If we remember the separation of powers and the powers of each branch, because we've studied our civics well, we should be able to choose this pretty quickly. So pause the video, read A through D, choose the one you think is correct. I'm going to go through them now. A, to introduce bills to be enacted into law. B, to initiate impeachment procedures against state officials. C, to interpret state laws. D, to vote on state budgets. Which one do you think it is? C, to interpret state laws. These would not be under the judicial branch of a state government. They would be in the, I said judicial, apologies. This would not be under the legislative branch. They would be under the judicial Both at the federal and the state level, the judicial branch is responsible for interpreting laws. 19. Which of the following is not considered a civil liberty? Civil liberties are our basic rights. A. Freedom of assembly. B. Freedom of speech. C. Right to privacy. D. Right to fair wages. If you remember studying from your civics, then you should be able to find the answer. Which one of these rights is not granted to us in the Bill of Rights? The answer is D. Right to fair wages. The Bill of Rights does not regulate commerce for us. Here we have a rather long passage. Go ahead and pause the video and read this passage. This is an excerpt from President Lyndon Baines Johnson's State of the Union Address. Question number 21. In this excerpt, what is one reason Johnson believes some Americans live on the outskirts of hope? Is it A, bad government, B, lack of education, C, racism, or D, selfishness? What do you think? Pause, have a look back if you can find any information in the text that can prove your point. The answer is C, racism. If we look back in the text, Johnson uses the phrase for people of color. This is letting us know that it's about their race. 22. How many electoral votes does a candidate need in order to win a presidential election? Pause video, read through the answers, and choose which one is correct. So it's A, 3/4 of the votes, B, 2/3 of the votes, C, a majority of the votes, or D, all of the votes. And the correct answer is C, a simple majority of electoral votes is required for the Constitution, for the presidential election. Okay, so we're getting a little break from the factual knowledge-based questions, and now we have to be able to read this graph. What does this tell us? If we look at the top, the title of this graph, is U.S. public debt ceiling since 1981 in trillions of dollars. On the vertical axis on the left, we have numbers of trillions of dollars. And on the horizontal axis on the bottom, we have years from 81 to 2012. In the middle, with years, are the names of presidents, the surnames of presidents. The years indicating their term in office. Go ahead and pause the video. Look at all of the information. Where can you find the biggest increases or the smallest increases? In what years did the country raise the debt ceiling? 23 asks us, for the period covered by the graph, under which president did the U.S. public debt ceiling increase the most? And they've listed Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. So we're looking for under which president did the debt ceiling increase the most? Have a look. See if you can guess. Pause the video and look carefully. The correct answer is C, George Bush. If we look at this, we can see that during George Bush's rule as president, it went from about $9 to $5 trillion and $15 trillion in debt. That's an increase of about $5 trillion. This can be attributed to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Next, we have a passage from a historical document. Read it, and then we'll move on to the question. This passage is an excerpt from which of the following documents? A, the Declaration of Independence, B, the Bill of Rights, C, the Emancipation Proclamation, or D, the Monroe Doctrine. Again, this is factual-based knowledge. You just need to understand these documents and be able to recognize them. The correct answer is A, the Declaration of Independence. On to question number 25. We're going to be looking at this map. Go ahead, pause the video. Look at the key of the map. It shows us what these different dotted lines or solid lines represent. Look at the title. Look at all of the text. Try to understand what they're showing us. So I'm assuming you paused the video and had a good look. Now go ahead and pause the video and read the answers. Based on the map, which of the following is true? So if we look back here, you can see some information. You can pause it to see. Then we'll come back and we can read the answers. So A tells us, settlers followed the Oregon Trail to the Pacific Northwest. Let's have a look. On the bottom, we have Oregon Trail, which is represented by dashed lines in bold. It goes from the center of the country directly all the way up to the northwest. Settlers followed the Oregon Trail to the Pacific Northwest. That is the correct answer. B, the Lewis and Clark expedition discovered a direct route to California. If we go back, Lewis and Clark is a bold line. It doesn't go to California, and it doesn't go in any way direct. C, the Transcontinental Railroad followed the route of the Lewis and Clark expedition. The Transcontinental Railroad is represented by a thin, bold, straight line, and though it does follow the Lewis and Clark expedition for about one state, the majority of it is not following it. D, the Santa Fe Trail linked the Great Lakes to the Pacific Ocean. We go back, none of these start at the Great Lakes, which are in the north of the country, so that is incorrect. The correct answer is A. 26. Pause the video, read the question, and read each amendment. Okay, 26 asks us, which of the following amendments to the U.S. Constitution was not passed as a result of the Civil War? Again, factual-based knowledge of the Civil War. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed after the Civil War. The 19th Amendment was passed around 3 or 4 decades later and is about granting women the right to vote. So D is correct. D is not passed, was not passed as a result of the Civil War. Again, factual-based knowledge. This is a rather challenging question if you haven't done your studying carefully. So it's a fill-in-the-blank question that asks us, laws passed between 1876 and 1965 that mandated separate but equal segregation in the southern United States were known collectively by the colloquial name blank. Can you remember the name that the common people use for these laws? The answer is Jim Crow. 27. Which of the following was a motivator for European colonization of the Americas in the 15th and 16th centuries? Pause the video, read the answers A through D, and choose which one you think is correct. Let's go through the answers. A, to obtain natural resources such as gold and furs. B, to spread democracy. C, to expand markets for products of the European Industrial Revolution. D, to find new sources of coal, petroleum, and other fossil fuels. Although you should be able to choose this based on your studying of colonial history, you can use the process of elimination to get rid of most of these answers. Which one do you think is correct? Let's start with D. Petroleum and fossil fuels were not discovered for centuries after this. That cannot be correct. We can cross that one off the list. C, to expand markets for products of the European Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution is only beginning at the end of this It's not possible that that's the correct answer. We cross that off. B, to spread democracy. We're now down to A or B. If you did have to guess, and this was the last 5 minutes of the test, and you had marked this for review at the end, you now have a 50-50 chance of getting it right. However, we can use some of our understanding of why colonization took place to know that B, to spread democracy, was not one of their goals. The goals of mercantilism were to maintain control of the motherland, to gain natural resources from the colonies, and to create a market for manufactured goods in the later half. So, A is the correct answer. To obtain natural resources such as gold and furs. Gold in Central and South America, and furs in North America. 29 says, indicate which countries belong to each World War alliance. And this tells us, note, you'll have to drag and drop into the position of the chart. So we have the Triple Entente and the Central Powers, both representing opposite sides during World War II. And then we have the German Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, France, the United Kingdom, and the Russian Empire. Pause the video, take a second to think about which belongs on each side. So the Triple Entente would be the Ottoman Empire, the German Empire, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Wait, I'm sorry, I think I said Triple Entente. I meant the Central Powers. The Central Powers would be the German, Ottoman, and Austro-Hungarian empires. The Triple Entente would be what we call the good guys now: France, the United Kingdom, and the Russian Empire. Number 30. Who was the ruler of Russia, who was overthrown by the Russian Revolution that began in 1917? If you've been doing the world history reading and you're up to date on communism and the Cold War, you can easily choose this answer. Or you could take a factual-based, knowledge-based approach and just choose it because you remember who it was. So we have A, Joseph Stalin, B, Vladimir Lenin, C, Nicholas II, or D, Leon Trotsky. Stalin, Lenin, and Trotsky are famous names in Russian communism. We could choose that none of those were overthrown by the Russian Revolution. So C, Nicholas II, is the correct answer. We have another map. Go ahead and pause the video and have a look. Okay, so the title of this map is Europe After World War II. We have a small key with dark and light gray, and it tells us countries receiving aid and countries receiving no aid. Most of the countries on the map in Europe and the Soviet Union are marked with their name. Indicate the choice that is correct and belongs in the blank, marked select. So we have another drop-down menu. The map shows the countries that received aid under the blank. The Warsaw Pact, Truman Doctrine, Great Society, or the Marshall Plan. Which one do you think it is? Well, if you've been doing some history studying, I think you'll be able to get this one pretty easily. It was the Marshall Plan. The Warsaw Pact, the Truman Doctrine, and the Great Society are irrelevant. Fill in the blank. The blank, a law passed following the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, provided the U.S. government with greatly expanded powers to gather intelligence within the United States. This is one of the most modern history questions I've seen in any of these tests, up to 2001. And a lot of the lists for studying for the exam don't really go past the Cold War. It's a good idea to study it, to brush up on your modern U.S. history just a bit. This is actually a form of civics as well. So the answer for this is the Patriot Act. Here we have a table about income tax and salaries. So on the left-hand side, it tells you the salary range for individuals in the United States. Top of the table on the right side will tell us their marriage status, and then the information underneath each marriage status will tell us their tax burden. I'll go back to the chart to stop while we look, while we think. So number 3 says, based on the table, what is the least amount of money that a married couple filing their tax return jointly would have to earn annually in order to owe $2,949 in taxes? And they give us salaries of $25,250, $25.04, $25,300, and $25,250. So pause the video, look at those salaries carefully, have a look at the table and see where they fit. Okay, which one did you choose? This has some tricky answers. The whole $25 versus $25,000, because there is a decimal point and not a comma in the answer, could be misleading if you're not careful looking at the question. The answer is C, $25,300, because it would be between $25,300 and $25,350. If we look back here, we can see the range in the third row down on the left side. And looking at filed jointly, we get $2,494. More factual-based knowledge. U.S. history. In what year was the stock market crash that started the Great Depression? 1909 A, 1919 B, 1929 C, or 1939 D. Using 3 nines per question is a tricky way to make sure you really know the answer. And the answer is C. The stock market crashed on October 29th, 1929. 35. We have an economics question. Please read the passage and choose the correct term for the answer. Okay. I am not going to read this whole passage. It's about a business. The business does good. It makes some money. It makes more than its operating costs. What is the term in economics for excess of income over operating cost? A, investment. B, profit. C, capital. D, productivity. The correct answer is profit. This is basic economics, and if you're going to succeed in life in any way, you're going to want to know all these terms anyway, so go ahead and brush up on your economics. Here we have a graphic showing a scale. Goods and services represented by a big rectangle, a big almost square, with a bunch of circular arrows in the middle, and then money in circulation with a couple circular arrows inside in a small square. The principle here is supply and demand. What economic phenomenon is represented by the illustration? A, recession. B, inflation. C, monopoly. Or D, deflation. Have a look again at the terms. You can pause the video. Here's the graphic for you to look at. The answer is D, deflation. So deflation occurs when the prices of goods and services decrease. In this situation, it's happening because oversupply, there are more goods and services than there is money in circulation to purchase them. Here we have the household saving rate and wealth by percent of households' disposable income. On the left and right vertical axis, we have percent on the left, and right a raw number. We have dashed and straight lines that tell us the dashed would be the savings percentage on the left side. The net worth would be the solid lines with percentages on the right side. The years on the horizontal axis in the bottom go from 1980 to 2012. Take a look. Look at the highs, look at the lows, look at discrepancies between the two. Question number 37 asks us, for the years shown on the graph, in which year did households save the smallest share of their disposable income? Have a look at this again if you'd like. The smallest share of the disposable income. Is it A, 1982, B, 1995, C, 2005, or D, 2008? Correct answer is C, 2005. As we can see, it reaches the lowest amount, the savings percentage, in 2005, just before 2006, the dashed line dips to roughly 1.2% or something. Here, another history question. Number 38. The scientific revolution of the 16th and 17th centuries was a time of numerous discoveries in the fields of mathematics, medicine, and science. Which of the following was not a discovery of the scientific revolution? Go ahead and pause the video and read through. Okay, I'm not going to go through each answer with this one because it's quite obvious by the use of the 16th and 17th centuries that D is not an idea that atoms is not an idea from the scientific revolution. The idea that atoms are composed of smaller protons, neutrons, and electrons comes much later, centuries later, in the 19th and 20th centuries. 39. Which of the following is an essential characteristic of capitalism? This question is testing your knowledge of capitalism versus socialism. We discussed those in this video, so let's jump right into it. Pause the video, read A through D, and choose which one is correct. Okay, so we have A, private ownership and operation of industry for profit. B, state ownership of the banking system. C, government control of all wages and prices. D, a society that is not divided into separate social classes. B, C, and D all use socialist methods of control. A is the only answer that is free of state control of the market. A is correct. Here we have another map. This shows us about the invasions of the Roman Empire between 100 and 500 CE. And the key on the right, it shows us what each type of line means, and it gives us the name of the group of people. On the map itself are written some dates. So those dates represent the invasions of the Roman Empire by different groups. Question is, which of the following can you not tell from the map? Go ahead and read the four questions, the four answers, and decide which one you cannot tell by the map. Pause the video and read the four answers, and then I'll go back to the map so you can look again. Here I'll pause the video so you pause the video and look at the map. Decide which one can we not tell. Okay. The correct answer for number 40 would be A, the dates of the invasions of England by the Angles and Saxons. If we go back to the map and look in the top left corner, the invasion of the Angles and Saxons to the British Isles do not have any dates. That's it. Thank you for tuning in to Phuket PALS for this social studies exam, and good luck on your test as always.